So when somebody else asks for our advice, we can't help but give our advice. When somebody asks for help, it's inside of us that we must offer the help because we want to leave impact on other people. It makes us feel good.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
Hey, podcaster. It's your host, Adam Adams. And recently I got an email from a gentleman named Tom Schwab from Interview Valet. By the way, we will put a link to Interview Valet in the show notes because there is a great chance that you're going to want to work with somebody like that if you've got the money. But he had a really interesting thought, and I wanted to share it with you. In the email that I recently got from Interview Valet from Tom, he talked about an aha moment that he learned after 7 years of studying podcast guesting. He owns a company that helps you get guesting on other people's podcasts. So he's been studying it for, he said on the email, like 7 years. And late 2022, he had a giant aha moment that is kind of interesting. He mentioned that once he figured it out, he's seeing it everywhere. Okay. He's seeing it with how authors launch brand new books and automatically become a best-selling author. He's seeing it how brand new TV shows are just sweeping the nation. He's seeing it in how different brands will launch, dominate, and just keep repeating. And how new podcasts, perhaps like yours, quickly launch and become successful and popular overnight. And the framework that he's mentioning in his email is in large part due to you making sure that you seed before you launch. Okay. If you want absolute success, one of the things that you want to do is plant that seed. If you want a garden, you've got to plant some seeds. If you want a successful garden, you can't just have dirt. You've got to do a few things. You've got to have good soil. You've got to put the seeds in at the correct depth and facing the right way, if that's the case on some seeds. And you've got to water, you've got to nurture. Eventually, you're going to have to prune it. But that seeding process, that beginning thing is necessary, fully necessary. So if you've heard our podcast, this podcast, and if you have listened to like episodes 1 through 6, it's a whole course. And the seeding thing, which actually Tom calls it seeding, I call it a pre-launch. Okay. Seeding is probably a better way to put it. But if you listen to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll hear how important it is to understand your avatar, how important it is to then to start the pre-launch process, build the awareness before the launch. And Tom goes on to say that there's basically 6 stages to the life cycle of a podcast interview. If you want your stuff to be successful, there's a few pieces that you need to do. Now, I won't cover all 6 of these things, but I want to definitely cover the first 2. It's the seeding or the pre-launch and the launch. And then there's 4 more that he goes into. But this pre-launch is something that I've also noticed with how authors are becoming best-selling authors. They're generally doing something prior to the launch, right? How a TV show becomes a giant. They're usually doing some marketing, building some awareness, putting out some trailer episodes, paying for some marketing on YouTube and other places. Same thing with how giant brands, how successful brands launch and dominate the industry, whichever industry they are in. They're always going to do a pre-launch. They're always going to plant the seed before the actual launch. And how podcasts become popular overnight is the seeding. Here's a couple of ways that you can do some pre-launch or how you can do some seeding. Whether you've launched your show already or not, these are some takeaways that you can specifically do to make sure to get more traction. For example, one thing that you need to do is with your podcast, if you want it to grow, you can get on other people's podcasts. Okay. You can start building that awareness by getting on other people's shows. Another thing is you can start going on your Facebook and self-promoting. A lot of people are afraid to self-promote. A lot of people feel icky. They feel gross. They feel like they're pushing this down somebody's throat and they feel bad. They're like, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. But if you do it, you will get success. So you're sitting here like avoiding self-promotion. You're like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Nope, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, well then effing don't have anyone ever listening to your show. Because if you don't believe in your show enough to tell other people about it, nobody else is going to believe in your show. You've got to take that step to go on social media, for example. And the next thing that I'll share, another tangible takeaway is how do you do that? You're like, okay, Adam, I get it. You want me to go on social media. You proved your point. I'm failing literally because I never do that. But how do I do it? Okay, well, here's a couple of ideas. Here's a couple of things that you can do. One thing we share with all of our clients all the time is 2 different posts that they need to do before they ever launch a podcast. Now, if you've already got a show, they will still work, but this is the seeding process, this pre-launch process that makes things build in the traction. So these 2 different posts, you can do them on any social media platform that you are active on. If you're active on TikTok, do it there. If you're active on Insta, do it there. If you're active on LinkedIn, do it there. I'm active on Facebook, so that's where I do mine. So I'll just go to Facebook, and the 2 posts, one of them has something to do with the name of your podcast. The other one has something to do with the podcast artwork. Write these down because they will benefit you regardless if you've launched or not. They will especially help you if you have not yet launched. So with the first one, I always sit down with my coaching clients who are launching a podcast. And when I say sit down, we're over Zoom because they're usually in other states or even sometimes another country. We'll sit down, them on their screen and me on my screen, and we can share screens and we write a couple of posts. The first one is, I decided to start and launch a podcast. You start it with, I'm finally going to do it. Remember how we talk about on this podcast a lot, hook, story, offer. You say something like, I finally decided to do it. That's your hook. That gets people to be like, do what? What is he talking about? What's she talking about? I finally decided to do it. I'm going to launch my podcast and I'm so excited, but I need your help. Okay. Human beings have a very hard time not offering suggestions, opinions, or help. There's something with us as humans that we need to help others. It's just ingrained in us. We are a very cooperative species as a whole. So when somebody else asks for our advice, we can't help but give our advice. When somebody asks for help, it's inside of us that we must offer the help because we want to leave impact on other people. It makes us feel good. So when you are launching a podcast, for example, and you're doing this pre-launch or the seeding, as Tom would call it, you'll reach in and you'll hook, story, offer. You'll basically say, I decided to do it. I'm finally going to do it. I can't believe I'm doing this. After 6 years of thinking about it, I'm launching my podcast, but I need your help. I want to figure out what title is the best title for me to call this podcast. And just for better context for you, my perfect avatar is, and then you lay out your perfect avatar. It's an adult who wants to achieve XYZ without this hardship, something like that. It's this type of person who wants this result, but doesn't want to have to struggle with this other thing. So my avatar is, I might do something like this. I'll use my own podcast as context. Now, it's called The Podcast on Podcasting, as you probably are aware, but I might post something like, hey, after helping a ton of people successfully grow their podcasts in a remarkable way, I've decided to launch a podcast that can help me help more people. But I need your help. I need your ideas for the best thing to call my podcast. And then I'll list like 2, 3, or 4 ideas. I'll say, I'm going between the following: the podcast on podcasting, how to grow a podcast, and maybe I'll throw a couple others out. And then I'll say, just for better context, my perfect listener is going to be somebody who is brand new at launching a podcast. They're not sure how to grow it. They don't want to handle all of the hard stuff. They'd rather work with somebody that can solve their problems with the least amount of effort on their part so they can be the star of their show. That might be something where I would write that on my Facebook. And then I'll put like an emoji pointing down that basically says, let me know in the comments which one you like best. Let me know in the comments if any of these would work. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and opinions on the podcast title. Okay, something like that. And that's your call to action. Remember, hook, story, offer. Hook, story, offer. The hook, something that grabs the attention. The story is what you really want to tell them. And the offer is the thing that you want them to do. So with my clients, a lot of times when we sit down and we're launching a show like this, we'll do this hook, story, offer, because when we ask the person to comment below, a couple of magical things happen. Magic happens, okay, with this seeding process, with this pre-launch process. One is we are able, because on this social media platform, in my case, I'm using Facebook, because on this social media platform, I'm asking for engagement. Guess what's going to happen? What? You're going to get engagement. Duh. Because I'm asking for the engagement, I'm getting engagement. That's one thing. 2, because there is engagement, I'm getting social proofing from other human beings that see the post. Okay. So other people are like, man, I should comment too. I should give my opinion. A lot of people want to give Adam their opinion on his podcast name. I should too. It's just magic. Next, the Facebook's own algorithms, or whatever social media platform you're using, the social media platform's algorithms are going to say, oh my gosh, Adam's getting a lot of people commenting on this post. And as a social media platform, I need more people to stay on this social media platform. I want more people on Facebook. I'm Facebook, and I want lots of people on Facebook. And so, therefore, I'm going to make absolute certain that because Adam's getting a whole bunch of engagement on this post, he's asking for engagement, people are actually doing it, the extra social proof's getting more people to do it. Well, if I'm Facebook and I know that I've got investors and advertisers, the sponsors need to make money. The people that have invested in Facebook need to make money. The owners of Facebook need to make money. And the only way they do that is to keep people on their platform. And they're saying to themselves, oh my gosh, Adam Adams is keeping people on this platform. So they have split tested this post against somebody else's post that's not getting traction. And they've decided, Facebook says, wow, I'm going to, instead of pushing this, because naturally, this is how social media platforms do it. They don't push your stuff in front of almost anyone, just a few people, a few select people. But once you start getting engagement, they're like, whoa, we can make more money if we push this post in front of more people. So they do. And that allows more eyeballs on that stuff. So now almost everybody that follows me knows that I'm launching this podcast. What? So instead of 5 people knowing that you have a podcast, now hundreds of people know that you have a podcast. Yes, that's the answer. It's because we're seeding. We're doing the pre-launch. We're planting the seed before we launch. Okay. So those are a few tangibles. The last one that I was going to say is when our artwork comes in. This next post goes like this. Thank you so much for your feedback on selecting a title for my podcast. It was very helpful. And with your help, I chose XYZ title. But I still need your help again, if you don't mind. I submitted to Fiverr, for example. I submitted to Fiverr, and let's make sure we notate Fiverr. I actually have what is it called? I can do an affiliate link both for Interview Valet with Tom, and I can do an affiliate link for Fiverr. So let's do it. We've got an affiliate link for Fiverr now in the show notes. So in case you don't know what it is, you don't already have an account, you can easily click that button and go straight to Fiverr and know exactly what I'm talking about. The point is, you go on Fiverr and you ask 2 or 3 different people for a smallish amount of money to create you some podcast artwork. And now 2 or 3 or 4 people have finalized a couple of ideas. Now, what you do in this post where it says, thank you so much for your help. I selected this title because of your feedback, and I need a little bit more help. I've submitted to a couple of artists. What do they call them? Digital artists? Anyway, I can't think of the name. The point is, I've submitted this to a couple of people that can come up with these digital assets. And I've got 4 options below. Let me know what you think. Should I use one of them? Let me know what you think. ? Should I use one of them? ? I would love your opinion. ? You can say all of these questions. More questions, the better. It stops the scroll. Actually, that's an algorithm within Facebook, is whatever stops the scroll. And images tend to stop the scroll easier. So Facebook pushes your things in front of more people, most of the time, simply just because it has an image. So anyway, here you are stopping the scroll. You've got all these 4 different options. They already are feeling like they're behind your podcast. They're already helping with your podcast. They want to make sure you don't have a crappy logo. So they end up offering below. They comment below and they say, I like C best. I like D. I like the 4th one, or I like the bottom right, however it is that you do this. Now you're going to get more social proof again. More people are going to know what's going on. And this is a huge way that you can seed or pre-launch the success of your podcast. I hope you got a few really good takeaways, and it will allow you to be able to grow your podcast influence sooner rather than later. And if you need any other help, I'm Adam Adams. My company is growyourshow.com. We handle the hard stuff so you can be the star of your show. Reach out to us at growyourshow.com, schedule an appointment, and we'll see if we can either help you do all of your editing and post-production stuff or the marketing stuff or whatever it is that you need help with today. Reach out at growyourshow.com. Thank you. This is serious. Don't go. Now that you've gotten whatever value that you feel that you got, the actionable takeaways, you need to implement the stuff that you learned. If you remember me talking about bird church once, and they learn how to fly, and then they walk home, I don't want you to walk home. I want you to fly home. So take the steps, take the actionable steps for your benefits that you can become a better podcaster. That's the only thing that I ask of you. And I'll see you for more actionable tips on the very next episode.